Okay, we're here at my front of my house. There's my chicken coop, which I'll do a tour of it pretty soon. And you can also see our water tank providing rainwater to the house. Anyway, but we're here on water. This is, I wouldn't call this a main water flow. This is, we'll call it man-made water flow. Got concrete, two roofs. Anyway, the water, I don't know where that plastic washed in. I'll get that out of the way. Anyway, the driveway catches so much water, I decided to dig this out to catch water. Now I do have my well in the back here, so this is left over from another project. I'm probably maybe about even with the chicken coop. Put that retaining wall there and then fill that in so that a truck can get back there to service our well. Okay, let's keep walking. Kind of see where it's all rocky, that's water flow, but push a bunch of rocks over here. Actually, when I was digging out that hole I just showed you, the big rocks and stuff I just piled up over there with hopes of stopping some water. I'm not going to go through here, but I'm going to meet you at that fence right there. It starts to get interesting again, but I'm going to shut it down while I walk over there. Okay, we're back on the other side. You can see that, I guess, whatever you want to call it, a rock dam. I haven't seen it hold any water. I think the water just created a new path around it. Well, we'll show you a big water tank right here. And I'll show you Yoda. Hey, Yoda. Anyway, the overflow of it, I've got over here where I can let the water run out. So we're getting to where the true natural triangle water flow is coming into my water flow. And it's right here coming from the neighbor's property. So I built a pocket pond over here. We call this the thermo pond. When I first built it, I did get a pallet of Bermuda grass, and when I just did it around like this, and it looked like a thermometer, so it got dubbed the thermo pond. It's another one, doesn't hold water. If it does, it's a saturation thing. It just tells me the ground's saturated. And it overflows out into another pocket pond. We call this the pecan paddock. You can call this another, well, it's called the pecan paddock, but it's another Candyland type structure. I want the grass to get thick and deep, and then we let some sheep out on it. First trees I ever planted, pecan tree there and pecan tree over there. I'm gonna need to hop the fence here. So I did dig out a flat spot for the water to flow. There again, any rock volunteers, I need to line these with rocks. I built these pocket ponds with a skid steer, mainly because that's what I have. If I had a excavator, I could really sculpt the edges, but you get to a point where it's just unsafe to use a skid steer. Okay, look at that, we got rocks on this one. So it's overflowing to another pond. We'll call this an unnamed pond for now. I think this paddock we call our backyard, so we'll just call this the backyard pond. There we go. I tried to, well, the overflow is over here. And I did try to plant some vetiver. Okay, I had to divert off the main water flow path again, just to give you context. That's downhill, we're going uphill on my water flow. So I dug this one out, literally in crushed limestone. And this is another pocket pond. And believe it or not, this is the only one of the pocket ponds. I'm talking about non-sealed, non-keyed dam, just literally digging a hole in the ground. This one holds water. I don't know if this limestone has clay in it. I really don't know. If anybody has any ideas, it is downhill from an area. and I call this my deep root zone. This, where I'm standing, is another Candyland type paddock, but I built this fence, but there's another fence up higher that's on the neighbor's property, and it's pretty degraded. Didn't think it would hold a cow, sheep, anything like that. So I decided to make a deep root zone. So I've got this barrier maybe 30 yards deep on a cliff, and I call it my deep root zone. I'm gonna leave it alone, let the grass get tall. As you can see, I'm also throwing brush across it, because while I don't have deer or cows on it, I'm sorry, sheep or cows, deer do come up here, and I planted some native plums and some native persimmons over here. A lot of yucca. I do see signs of native blackberries also. Anyway, let's get back to it. So anyway, this is the mound pond, and I'll explain why we call it the mound. This whole area was dropping ground, and all the debris I had, I was just piling it and burying it. I mean, it is big. I mean, it may be, while you're just looking at little mound there, little mound there, you can see the brush sticking out. These are probably 6 foot deep, but they're at ground level. You can see I've got my little swampy area here, and I laid wood chips down when I can get them. So this is a long-term project of just, I guess when I bought the place, this was no grass. It was just all limestone, kind of like around that pond I just showed you. Very, very little grass growing. So this was a dumping spot of anything organic. Anyway, the deer food plot mix, you can see there's a turnip. This is an area where I laid a round bale down for the cows. So that's fertility. And I have had animals on here, but you can see the green area. I'm gonna divert one more time to another hay ring over here. Let's see. Hay rings used to be this dead zone of 8-inch thick hay smothering everything out. When I just lay the round bale down, and then I'm like, let me throw seed before I put the hay ring down, or the round bale down. Anyway, so you can see this. Not full covers, but it's got, I mean, everywhere there's grass. Anyway, and this is an area, let me just pan around. Rock, this is just rocky ground. So we're getting some grass growing on it, which is pretty cool. All right, I promise we're back on the water flows. Okay, we're back. This is the last pond I showed you. We'll call it the backyard pond because we call this paddock the backyard. That's the pecan paddock with a pecan pond, and that's the mound. So we're continuing downhill. So we go from this one. Let's walk down. Anyway, so we're walking around. I've just been piling brush here. I mean, it'll probably be moved, but you know, I've got big enough logs where I could do something with it. Fence posts, pier system. You know, I could build a pier over a pond. We were walking down here. This was actually a road. When I first bought the property, what you see down there was a feed store, and a lot of the feed was kept here. You can see a loading ramp where an 18-wheeler can back up. Anyway, you buy the stuff up there and you drive back there to load up, and I think he had stuff like hay bales back there. Anyway, so there's a culvert right here, and somebody probably say this was a terrible idea, and they may be right, except I have a skid steer and I can fix it. I don't know if we're gonna get erosion, start narrowing down the road. Anyway, there's a culvert right there going across. I just dug a big trench out. So all the water flows there, settles in the ground. You go across the culvert, same thing. I just dug a little area here, and this is the remnants of a big cedar elm. I think I showed one earlier, and the trees just are very weak. It was dead. It was dropping leaves or limbs. anyway, we took it down. But they decompose pretty quick. I want to say in about a year they're kind of spongy, so I'll find a good place to put it. Anyway, so we're walking on down. This is a start of another pond, pocket pond. Kind of just dammed it up. And I think I'd said normally I use the native ground as the overflow, but like I've got a skid steer, it's not done. I kind of just shaped it, pushed the dirt up, and you can see this is where the water wanted to flow, so I'll probably make that the water flow. You can kind of see a channel as the water keeps going. And see where it cuts across over here. And I'm going to show you the octagon building. Kind of show you where we have tied into the main water flow. I'm going to shut it down. I have one more natural flow, and we call it the highway flow. It might be noisy, but we're going to give it a try.